Three, two, one. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Elle Diablo podcast. We got a great guest. Very excited. Dan Perlman, how you doing?
Oh, I'm good. Hello. Hi.
He's a great comedian. I don't know if you follow him or not. If you don't, you should. And he's been in a great show on HBO. Showtime. Yep, on Showtime. I know. See, I know my guests. That's the whole. That's what I do.
Yes. We're getting to the bottom of it. By the end, we're gonna know.
Flatbush Misdemeanors. Mm-hmm. Check it out if you haven't watched it yet. And what's up? How are you?
Oh, I'm good.
You're good.
Yeah.
Well, on the Elle Diablo podcast, I guess the whole angle is to just talk about why you hate yourself.
Okay.
So, what's up? Why do you hate yourself?
I mean, so many reasons. Well, I mean, I feel like you kind of you know that you hate yourself, and then you just come up with reasons to justify it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like it's not like the reasons are secondary. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. The reasons just prove this thesis that you've already had from when you were young, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
it's not a surprise or anything like that.
Right, and it's not like if you fixed those one or two things that you would start to love yourself.
Of course, yeah, because then you just find other things that
you would just find 100%. You would just find new things. Yeah.
Yeah. I one of the things, something that I admire about people, which is so kind of embarrassing, when someone, do you ever talk to someone and then no.
This is the first time this ever happened. Yeah. No. Okay.
Do you ever talk to someone and then they just speak perfect sentences? They don't say they don't stutter, they don't mispronounce words. It just flows out of them.
Yeah, but also maybe, and this is more, I don't know, this is probably my own thing in another respect. I think sometimes I'm suspicious of people who talk like that.
Dude, I mean,
to me, there's something very robotic and salesman, and almost
True.
There's nothing behind the eyes. Do you know what I mean? Where it's fully, they're just kind of in that mode, and they're just going, and everything they're able to sort of clearly articulate stuff in a way that I think I associate that kind of certainty with a derangedness, you know?
Like a psychopath.
A psychopath, yeah. But one who's going to be incredibly successful. So I admire them in that sense, because they're going to be incredibly successful because...
Especially in social aspects.
In social aspects, but also in business, which is it's all the same, where it's you're just kind of convincing people to trust you and like you or throw money at you or whatever it is. And so somebody who speaks with that kind of certainty... To anybody else, where any normal person has some uncertainty, we're just kind of oh, I guess you're right. And so I admire it in that sense.
Yeah.
I wish I had a little more of that.
Yeah.
But I do think, it's a sign of something that is a little
darker.
A little darker, yeah,
Whoa.
100%.
I think you're so right too. Because I feel I hyper fixate on people's strengths,
right?
Which probably a lot of people do, but you don't think about oh, well, they're probably the worst person ever.
Right, but again, it does come with those advantages.
Yeah.
And so then it's I do think it's good to look at it as strengths, because then you're not just oh, they're a bad person, they're a monster or whatever. It's they are doing something right, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And there's something to learn from everybody in terms of how they sort of operate, you know,
and how they're successful,
and 100%,
whatever.
Yeah.
What do you think your strong suit is, of your personality?
Whoa.
Whoa, was not prepared.
Whoa, I thought we were gonna talk about the bad stuff. I didn't think we were gonna do any sort of praising of myself.
Sorry.
I don't know. I'm not really the person to of my personality. So socially.
Yeah.
Are
you kind? Do you care? Are you?
I think I care. I think I'm a good
polite
listener to people. I think I've been able to. I am glad. I feel I've been able to maintain a lot of long-term like friendships
that's great.
and connections, and I reach out to people and check in on people.
That's awesome.
And so I think I think I'm good at that stuff. It's sort of like maintaining for the most part
You're
these
like a stalker.
dynamics. Yeah, I'll wait outside their homes, and if there's like an opening in their like curtain, I can like gaze through, and I like make a point to like
always remember where they live.
And like know what times they're likely to like change out of their clothes and stuff. No, yeah, you know what I mean, like stuff like that. I think. I think that's.
Yeah, you're a good friend.
I try to be, and I feel very bad when I'm not.
Yeah.
And so I think that's also, I appreciate when people have like pointed out if I've done something or said something inadvertently, or you know what I mean. I like the feedback, and I don't, because then this is a pet peeve for me if somebody doesn't handle that well. When you point out like, hey, that didn't make me feel great, or that was fucked up, or whatever. And some people don't like that kind of like feedback, or then just like flip it back, and then they're like, well, you're bad. You know what I mean?
Whoa, I hate that
so
much.
I've definitely, and so I try to not be that way and appreciate if somebody were to say that to me, and not just like, not just quietly internalize it and then just like distance themselves. You know what I mean?
For sure. I honestly have only met, or actually have been friends with, probably only 3 true like straightforward people where they're not afraid to be like an asshole, but they're not like trying to be an asshole. They're just being like, hey, you're kind of being a bitch right now.
Right. And then you can work through it.
And it's not like malicious, and they're not trying to add on. And like 2 weeks ago, I also thought you were a cunt for that. It's like
and they're not
on. It's like, okay, this isn't genuine.
Right. Well, that's a big thing. Yes, it's the ability to like move past it and not like hang on to. And this happens in relationships also. This is when how so many relationships fail. Is you start like holding on to this thing and hold on to that thing, and then if I say like, hey, Elle, that was messed up when you did this, and you're like, well, what about XYZ? And what about that one? You know what I mean? And it's like you're just holding on to like years of reasons why you don't love them. You know what I mean? And so it's like, and so that ability to like go case by case is like really hard. But it's like, but that's all we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love it. I feel like, if anything, I've gotten a lot of feedback over the years, and I think I'm too brutal, I guess. Is
that what the feedback has been? That you're too brutal?
Yeah, like I'm too, like I don't sugarcoat things.
Sure.
And I think that's like something I'm working on, instead of saying like, hey, you're really loud.
Right.
Like I would just say that instead of saying like, hey, so I just think if we could maybe like lower the volume a little bit, like just like a nicer way of presenting
little like
it.
Flintstones vitamin it. You know what I mean? Just a spoonful just like of sugar.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly. And for me, I'm like, no, I'm just getting to the point, and I'm telling them what they need. But like everyone else is like, they can't accept it.
And especially if they just hear it as a negative and it's not coming with any positive. You know what I mean? If you're only pointing out the negative, if you're just being quiet when they're like good at anything or whatever, or anything that's good, and just like loudly pointing out the bad. Yeah, it's tough. It's very tough to like figure out how people like to sort of be communicated with or talk to, you know?
I know, on a large scale, like for everybody, and you're trying, I feel like everyone, especially now, I feel like everyone's trying to be super sensitive to like everyone's possible need, which I feel like gives me more anxiety.
Well, yeah, because then you're kind of like, and again, this is all like, and you don't really know what way a person likes it until you sort of like step on the wrong landmine or whatever. But like, but there is that thing also where it's like, if you're just kind of walking on eggshells and avoiding like talking about what you need to talk about or point that out or whatever, then that might blow up in a different way.
I know.
So it's like there's like no winning. You know what I mean?
No winning. I mean, yeah, exactly.
But you just try the different routes, and maybe you get a little you get as Frogger, you kind of get closer to cross the street. You know?
What a game! Yes, exactly.
What a game!
I think that's like where I am too with dealing with people. I would say I'm like more of like an introvert, and with like extroverted capabilities. I don't know if that's real.
The introvert extrovert thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I always struggle with those like
terms.
Yeah, and I never know, you know, when you do those like personality quizzes and it's like what kind of person are you or whatever.
Oh my god.
Cuz it's like because then they'll be like, are you the type of person that like at a party, are you the type of person that like is the center of attention or like wants to be the center of attention, or do you hide in a corner and talk to one person and then leave? And so like in my head, I'm always kind of like, well, I would sit in the corner and talk to one person and then leave. But then there's another part of me that's like, well, I mean, like I do comedy and I've like, you know, like performed and like been on camera and like been the star of a show. So it's like, it would be like crazy of me to say like, oh no, I don't want the spot. You know what I mean?
I know.
And so, but then
I love a little
you feel
mix.
like both. I don't know. Yeah.
Right. Like I would like to be in the corner, in the center of attention of that little group. You know?
Okay.
Like
that's
killing it in front of 4 people
right.
at a party.
Yes. Small pond. Big fish, small pond.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I could walk home, dude. When you get like a huge laugh, I just
Right.
want to leave immediately from a group.
Yeah.
Oh my God, bye. I'm so done. I wanna leave.
You just
on
a quick kill, and then you
kill.
just an L-shaped hole in the window
Like,
as you
why
jump
did
out.
she-
Yeah,
Yeah.
and just fucking
Pretty much.
call
I
the
don't
Uber.
know. I'm so it's so hard, especially with comedy. I know you know this, but like when you do so well and then you just focus on I don't know if you focus, but like when you do bad,
yeah,
it's
of
like
course.
The real kill doesn't feel real.
No,
almost.
it doesn't feel real, and then also it's like our heads kind of inflate the wrong thing. Like do you do this where it's like sometimes I'll like maybe I'll try a new thing and you know it works or it does fine, but in my head I'm like, oh, that did great. And then I'll go back and listen to it and it did fine, but something that's like an older joke did much better, but I didn't feel it at all. I didn't hear it. I didn't absorb it. I wasn't able to take it in. But because this newer thing was just new, it felt like more of a rush, and I was more numb to this other thing.
It's so hard.
Which is the same way with love. That somebody loves you who already loves you. You're like, yeah, this person loves me. It doesn't feel anything.
Totally.
But somebody new just likes you okay, and you're like, wow.
Holy shit.
That's a new energy.
That's
you know what I
great.
mean?
Yeah, this is different.
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
Not something.
That's a coming out of a new face.
Oh my God,
Yeah,
I struggle with that so hard. Like when I had an ex for like 5 years, or I dated this guy for 5 years,
Right.
and he would always tell me like, "You're amazing, you're hilarious, you're beautiful," and I'd be like, "Can you shut up?"
And you're like, of course you fucking think that.
What are you talking about?
Right.
And then it's seeking validation from like people I don't even know.
Yeah, well, strangers. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. Yeah.
That's the whole thing. I don't.
Do you want to be past that though? Because I guess I kind of struggle with like, sometimes I think, I don't know. I guess maybe sometimes I feel like I don't have like a huge desire to like seek that from people right now, like in the sort of like stand up
like a relationship
form. No. Like doing stand up, seeking that outside validation. I kind of don't feel that kind of like compulsive need right now.
No.
And then I wonder like I'm like maybe that's like good and healthy.
No,
you know?
it is good.
It is
I
good,
feel
right?
Like that means you're secure in yourself and you're not looking, because you should. At the end of the day, I think everything, every TikTok, every book, and whatever they say, like you should be able to fill your own cup, and then when you get into like a relationship, it's just like an added. Like I already know my self-worth. I already know I'm all these things, and then you just are. It's just like an extra topping or whatever.
Yeah, it is still just like, but sometimes it's not as easy to like figure out. Like here's an aspect of my personality I don't like is I'm generally pretty like even keeled and calm, but I get so like annoyed and angry when I'm like 90% through like a task I don't want to do. You know?
Oh, interesting.
So like if I'm in traffic or something and I'm like 3 blocks from home, I get so I was doing this the other day. I was in a lift and there was like a lot of like traffic that like unexpectedly we got caught behind a thing or whatever, and I was literally like angrily like muttering to myself. I was like, this is not good or what. I'm like I'm being like crazy. I'm being crazy and I'm like, why? I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm like, man, if I ever like heard a recording or like saw a video of it, I'd be like, that's not me.
That's
like
not me.
Right.
Yeah,
but it is in some form. It's like something about that like brings it out in me that is so. It's kind of like when you're on a a plane. I think it's a similar thing.
Yeah.
You know how like angry people get because you're so like
Oh,
claustrophobic and caught and like I've gotten into arguments and people have barked at me because they're like, "Can you stand back?" I'm like, "I can't really." We're kind of like,
oh my God,
we're all walking off this same like narrow plane. But so that's one aspect I really don't like in myself is that it's like in there and I don't know how to sort of like diffuse it in a way and not have it like
just put you over the edge.
Not feel like there are just those rare moments, and it's always kind of like by myself, and I'm able to contain it. Like if we were both in the lift, I wouldn't have been doing that.
Oh, that's
do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But if I'm by myself, then I like can't control it.
I know.
Which then part of me thinks like, is that like a sign that I'm like crazy, or that I'm just like being insane? That I'm like, well, I'll mask it if somebody else is there or whatever. Yeah. But then by myself, like, is that actually me? Just somebody who'll be like muttering to himself, like caught in traffic. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, maybe to an extent, but you're just, it's like a negative aspect. It's not like what you should do.
Of course.
That's why you're like hiding it.
Right.
But I think it's like, it's so funny because it's so small. Like it's at the 90% mark of like anything. And that's when you lose, like instead of losing your temper through the whole ride, it's just like this small little bit.
Yeah, because
and then
it's
once
like,
you get out, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah,
dude,
I just like calm and cool off or whatever. No, but you know what? It's like when you're like, God, why isn't this going to be like done? It's when you just want something to be like a little easier. You know, it's that kind of exhaustion. You know, when you're like working out. You ever have somebody like train you or something and they tell you to do X amount of push-ups and then you do it and then they're like 5 more and you're like,
God,
no,
yes.
You lied to me. Like in my head I was done and now I'm not done. I'm so angry. You know what I mean?
That's so funny.
Because you tricked me into like having this strength and I don't have this strength and I got to this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that's why you keep on running into these situations because you need to like overcome it. I think
you're saying like one needs to, or like
I think you like not you or like anyone in your position. I always feel like, and sorry if this is too annoying, but I always feel like the universe puts us in like situations that we need to like overcome because it's like we have this like impatient part of our personality. Sure. So the universe is gonna put you in all these situations where you're losing your absolute shit, and you're like, all right, well, I guess I have to do something about this, or else I'm just gonna continue to be a psychopath.
That's interesting. So you think we're constantly thrust into those situations as like a challenge to ourselves to kind of like
maybe. I mean, it's kind of fun. I know, like. I don't know. What do you believe in?
I don't know.
Nothing.
I wasn't really raised with any sort of religion and sort of I don't know. It wasn't really. It wasn't anything I had to rebel against because I wasn't like brought up with it in any way.
That's nice.
It was just very agnostic.
Like normal, yeah.
Yeah, we were like culturally Jewish, but we would get a Christmas tree, but they would give presents, and it would just say like, "This is from us." There was no like, "This is Santa." You know what I mean? It was just kind of like,
it's not from Santa.
There's no other thing. We paid for it. Yeah, that's why we go to work so we could get you this thing.
Yeah, very straightforward.
Very straightforward. Yeah.
I like that.
So no, I don't know. There's no real abiding. Principle, I mean, which I wish would be nice to have.
In a way, I feel like that helped me because I guess I keep on repeating this every podcast, but I used to have like an anger problem, and there was like all these ways of like, I knew like I have to like get over it, and then I feel like I just repositioned my perspective into thinking, okay, every time I'm about to, was hard at first because I would literally like black out in anger, and I wouldn't be able to like notice.
What would bring that on?
It was either like drinking or just anyone like stepping to me at all. Not like.
Are you sober now?
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
No, God, no.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It wasn't. The drinking wasn't the problem. It was just like unresolved. Like anger. Like childhood. Like I was raised with a dad with an anger problem, so then I just like released that to fucking everybody.
For sure. Yeah.
And like I wasn't noticing like, oh, like I'm noticing that I'm getting upset right now, or I would just like go 1 to 100 and never give anyone a warning.
Right.
I gotta leave right now.
Right.
And sometimes, and I've done that in the within the past year where I'm like, I have to like leave, or I gotta get off the phone, or I'm just, and it's made people mad.
That's interesting. Yeah. You need to step out because you know you're about to erupt.
Exactly.
But in a way, you're being like respectful to them.
I know, but
they don't see it that way.
Because they want to keep going. And
right,
you're just dude, I would love to.
Right. But you don't know where this is going to, like, I'm going to take this to a level that you have no idea. So I need to tap out. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, I mean, I totally had like an anger thing, but it would all be towards myself. Like I used to like hit myself a lot.
Gosh.
Like
bad at podcasting.
No, it was fine.
Hit yourself a lot?
Yeah. I would
do you mean, where?
I would just like I would kind of be thinking about something. This was like in high school I would do this. And it would usually be like brought on by like, it would be like rushes of like shame or embarrassment, and like kind of like I would just kind of circle those, or you kind of circle either the people who don't like me, or the people who don't in my head or whatever, or something stupid I did, or a situation I handled badly, and you just kind of like circle it and obsess over it, and it's a way to sort of like it's like self-flagellating just to kind of like make it stop a little bit, or give this like self-punishment that you think that you deserved, just to like feel something, because the circling is so like is almost more painful. Yeah,
you were your own like abusive father.
100%. Yeah, but also that's because there were no like blowout arguments in my house growing up. It was all very like tense and on eggshells. It kind of like had the air of like everything is chill, but there would just be like these really tense moments. A lot of stuff was like unsaid, and so it's kind of like, I think that's why I maybe like I'm maybe like hypersensitive to people's like, and probably too much to people's like body language, or of like, oh, they don't want to be talking to me or this or that, because you're just kind of like, you grow up kind of like looking for clues.
Totally.
When like, oh, this person's mad, or like, oh, they're annoyed or whatever. You know what I mean? Because they're not just going to come out and say I'm annoyed. Do you know what I mean? And that's why I so appreciate when that's said, because it's like, oh, we're just being normal about this, instead of me having to like pick up like, oh, they're kind of like clenched or whatever. Totally. You know what I mean?
That's so interesting, because I'm the same way, but it's for the like my dad used to like get mad at anything. So I didn't know what he was going to get mad at.
Right.
So I feel like the same way in social situations where I'm hyper aware of people, because I'm like, they could get mad at anything.
Right. Something is going to set this off, and I have no idea.
No idea.
There's no like safe place I can step.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to, I guess, just stand here. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. But I'm trying to be more myself and force myself to say what I think, even if I think the other person won't agree.
Sure.
Which it seems like obvious, but I feel like,
and then they call you mean, and then you're like,
and
then you're like, all right, fuck it. Yeah.
Because it's just it also like I think in terms of friendships, because I'm always afraid like, oh, someone isn't gonna like me, but like in the long term, it's better to be yourself and be unlikable to some people, because over time those friendships will naturally dissipate, because you guys aren't supposed to fuck with each other in the first place. Yeah,
and I think especially as we get older, you know quicker who you sort of vibe with in that way, and who you don't. Like that's kind of,
that's true.
When you're younger, it's like, and especially and then maybe when you're newer in comedy or whatever, but when you're newer in any environment, you're just trying to kind of like fit in with wherever, and you don't really know who you are, and you don't know who you are relative to this whole like ecosystem or whatever. But then as time passes, I do think that's one of the probably few benefits of getting older, is you sort of like get better at like assessing a situation that you're in like quicker,
Absolutely. I think it's the best, really. I honestly, it like relieves so much anxiety, and just like, because sometimes I'll meet someone and instantly know it, like we will never be friends.
Sure.
There's just like an invisible wall of like we just are missing each other, and I
Yeah.
think that's so interesting. Like, what about your personality and my personality? Just
Are we just on different frequencies?
Yeah.
Where it's just
Yeah.
like the stuff is like not really landing.
yeah, at all, or you just always feel uncomfortable.
You always feel uncomfortable. You always feel, and I think that's a big thing that like, I feel like I have outgrown that in a way that I'm like grateful for. Is like I think for a while, and I think some people like never outgrow this, where it's like, I think you want some people like when I was younger in comedy, I think I wanted the approval of certain people, because I respected them or thought or liked what they did, but there are people where it's like you never feel good around them.
Yeah.
You never feel comfortable. You never feel
You're like yourself.
You never feel yourself. You never feel like at ease in any way. And then I think part of it, what I think is the dynamic with a lot of people like that, is they intentionally withhold a dynamic that makes you feel like an equal. They intentionally try to keep you down there because that's where they like feel their power, you know, in a way that's like deeply like diminishing.
Right.
And so it's like you're constantly like looking for their approval. And I think this is probably in any field, not just comedy, but it's like you're looking for their approval, but they're never going to grant it.
Never.
Because they need to kind of like feed that energy of you wanting a pat on the head, and they're never going to give that.
And you think there's something wrong with you because you see other people, maybe even of your stature, of your like level, getting off with them, and you're like, well, it has to be me because like other
when
people,
what it is they're not looking for it as transparently.
Yeah.
And so it's like then they could grant it, but it's just this fundamental lack of respect. And when they see you in that way, they'll never kind of like let you out of that sort of like box that they have you in, because that's like oxygen for them, is your need for their approval.
This is so great. I think about this a lot, honestly, especially with like big headliners or like really like you know, like famous comics.
Totally.
And there's some like I've met some where I'm like, this rocks. I didn't even know I could talk to you.
No, some incredibly famous or successful ones don't act like that at all. And that makes you realize like, oh, why is this person who's like nowhere near that person? Why do they always make me feel like shit? Or why do they always make me feel like uncomfortable or like I can't be myself in this way, you know?
I know.
And I think that I do think if you're in a dynamic like that, like it is a bit toxic and you should like get out of it. It's just like not worth that energy because it's just like never gonna like shift to this dynamic of respect that you like want.
Totally. And like comedy is all about, you know, being your best self. So I feel like as comedians we're just like hyper aware of like how can I be at my best self where I'm like the funniest, the loosest, the whatever.
And like why are you the funniest with your friends? Because you're comfortable.
Yeah.
And so when you're comfortable and when you have this like ease and when you're not feeling sort of like stilted or pressured or like trying to whatever, like that's not going to bring out the best in you. So it's like, but that takes so long and so much like constant like reminding yourself to like go where the love is. And that's like really hard, you know? It's like really hard to do, especially because we see other people getting certain things or doing certain things and you're like, should I be doing that? Or should I get this person's approval or whatever? But it's just like, I think all of that is just tends to be like a recipe for sadness, you know?
Oh yeah, like
and
jealousy.
Complete unfulfillment.
Yeah.
Jealousy and like chasing validation in environments that are not like ones that make you feel like whole or easy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you know that early on.
You know right away. Like this sucks. I don't want to be here. I don't like these people, this energy. I don't like any of this.
Yeah.
Like I want to go home.
Yeah.
Like exactly. I don't want to be in this environment.
Yeah,
you know?
I don't want to like, and you know that it's an environment where you're gonna have to like prove yourself. But even I've been
prove yourself, and in a way that you'll never fully be validated.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like not. Yeah, I don't know. It just sucks.
It sucks, but it's also I know I feel like right now I'm 30, and I feel like I'm finally starting to like move past that, and like once I get in a situation where I'm like, you guys just don't fuck with, like I'm not trying to win.
It just isn't a fit. This isn't a fit.
It's not a fit.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's not a fit, and that's okay.
And that's okay.
That's really okay.
I know it is like I don't know. It's tough out here. Are you dating anyone?
I am dating someone, yes.
Who are you dating? Or you don't have to tell, sorry.
Yeah. But
Are they a comic?
A person. She did comedy. She doesn't right now, but yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's going good.
It's good.
You just tell me all your relationship issues on the podcast. I don't know why.
It's all good.
It's all good.
Yeah.
What's your longest relationship been?
Over 3 years.
That's long. That's good.
With a non-comic.
That's good.
But probably the last year was bad.
Was bad?
Yeah.
Are there any like reoccurring traits that come up in relationships that aren't the greatest for you?
Well, I'm
for you personally, not the other person.
Well, I'm in therapy right now specifically for love and sex and relationships.
Oh, great.
Because I went back to therapy, but I was like, but I'm not going to focus on I hate giving the backstory about my parents and family, and I'm like, this is not, I get that it's relevant for context, but I don't, when they point out like, well, you know why this bothers you because of your parents. I'm like, yeah, no shit. But that doesn't help me as an adult,
you
know?
Yeah. It's not relevant.
I'm over 30. This is not relevant anymore. I'm not living in their house, you know?
Yeah.
But no, I don't know. I think in the past I've definitely recurring issues. I've definitely been kind of like avoidant. I've definitely been when I was asked to name the personality type, what is it? It's like anxious, avoidant, and then avoidant was the first one I could name, just because that's one that's been hurled in my direction. That's been it's been bandied about.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But no, I think I've definitely been like afraid to I'm telling you my issues and you just start answering a text.
Yeah.
Afraid to feel like people are really listening and you're just like scrolling on Instagram.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I think I'm like super slow to let people in, and then I think then once I do, then if I feel like hurt or uneasy, then I'll just quickly like sort of withdraw and retreat.
And like, what the hell?
Yeah. And I'm just like, no. And so I think there's a lot of
gotta go
relationships where maybe I was very hesitant, or I was like was not really giving people a chance because I did not feel like secure enough to like I felt like I kind of needed to keep like one foot out the door a little bit, because I just couldn't fully like
trust people
or like let myself trust in that way, you know? So I kind of always needed this dynamic of like, we can be together or not, whatever. I'm fine either way.
Was that from like your first relationship? Were you always like this?
I think I don't know. Well, I think it's maybe from early relationships when you're young, just kind of like, I don't know, it probably extends into like not observing any like good or healthy relationships growing up and not seeing anything like that. And then early relationships, maybe like going into them and then coming out of them, just kind of like feeling maybe like worse about yourself in a way that I'm kind of like, I just kind of like need to be a little like self-sufficient on my own, in a way that could be like a good thing, but also could just be like completely like avoidant and lack of like trust and essentially sandbagging it from the beginning, because it's like if you're never really like putting anything into it, then when it fails, you're just like, well, I knew it, you know what I mean?
And so like really losing anything.
You're not really losing anything because you're not really giving anything a chance. You're not really, you know. And so I think these are all things that I'm trying to.
I know. I feel it because I've always had like I guess when I look at those like attachment things, I'm like an anxious and an avoidant.
Sure.
So double the.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
The jackpot.
I'm extra.
Yeah.
I'm extra toxic. But like even from like the time I remember like first liking like guys or whatever, I was so embarrassed that I liked this guy, because I'm like, what if
like as a kid, you mean?
Like even as a kid, because I was like, oh, if I like them and then people know that I like them, like are they going to make fun of me because is this guy
Right.
a loser, and then
Oh,
he's
interesting.
going to be associated with me, and then he's going to like ruin my reputation.
Oh, wow. So it wasn't even like, oh, he's not going to like you. It was like he's beneath you.
Like he already
There'd be,
likes
like, you-
me, and I'm like
Oh,
stressing
okay.
out. 'Cause
Oh,
I'm
so
like,
you guys know you like each other, but it's like the perception of other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a thing that is so, like, I remember at that age feeling too, is just like, well, what is this person who I never speak to gonna think? You know?
Yeah.
Which I guess we still have in some form with comedy, but it's like,
But it's so weird.
no, it's crazy and like deranged, and the sort
find-
of like the preoccupation with like what is how is this going to be perceived by these people that I like don't care about
I know.
whatsoever is it is crazy that occupies like any brain space.
And you're like, what's wrong with them? Like why are they not good enough when it's like
They meaning the person you like, or
yeah,
yeah, sure.
Like I remember the first time like a guy liked me in high school, I was like, oh my God, like
Were you popular in high school?
No, I would say I was when I got into high school, I would say I was on the C team, I would say, of popularity.
Sure.
And then I made my own.
How many teams are there?
I think
there's a C team.
if we're just going from A, B, and C.
Okay. Oh,
And
there are
then,
3. I didn't know
like,
if the full alphabet had a
I
team.
think
Yeah. Yeah.
Z's,
Yeah.
go kill yourself.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I'm not gonna fuck a Z. That's never gonna happen. Yeah.
Never gonna happen.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't like I was friends with those girls, but like
Sure,
not
sure,
in
sure.
a real way. Like the
Uh-huh.
popular girls, but not
Right.
in a way where they were like inviting me to
Right.
their parties.
Okay,
And
sure,
if
sure,
I
sure.
did come, they would like the vibe would be like, "Oh, we'd love it if you could leave."
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
And
It's great seeing you like in the hallway
Yeah,
at
yeah.
school,
Yeah.
but like let's just like leave it to that. Yeah.
We were really not expecting you
We-
to actually.
There's no world we ever thought we'd see you after 3:30.
Dude, yeah. And it was like
We'd picture you more in the daylight than like a nighttime
but
friend.
exactly,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah, yeah,
And it
yeah.
was so I would try so hard to like get their like I guess affection or just,
Sure,
like,
sure.
approval. And
Yeah.
I even remember this is
And they're
side
all
note.
dead now.
And they're
Every
all,
single
like-
one of them is dead. Isn't that crazy?
They're all dead.
They've all died.
They're all like overdosed. And I'm like, I would
Yeah.
love
They
to be
all,
them.
every single one of them is in a mass grave. Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah.
And even like the funny one of the popular group, like I remember thinking like she's so not funny.
Sure.
I was
She was
like-
just like a little less hot than the others.
Oh
So they
my
assigned
God,
they assigned her
yeah.
the personality trait of the funny one.
She would literally do like fart noises.
Yeah,
And they
sure.
would all die. And I'm
Sure.
like, that's not even funny.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can be the funny one.
Yeah, no, you look back and you're like, I think the funny one was mostly just quoting Will Ferrell. I think somehow he got credit as the funny one
Yeah.
when I think everything he said was just said in Anchorman. And he just like said it back.
Yeah.
I don't know.
In like not the right accent or
Right.
tone or anything. Like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
really bad impression.
The funny one really just the one who like memorized movies the best.
Yeah.
That just like became his personality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I fucking hated it. But then I made my own group of like the girls that I really liked, and I could
Yeah.
be silly, and we could all be
Yeah.
like funny, and that
Yeah.
was like a other thing. Like some people like in high school, even like I dated this guy in New York like 4 years ago or something. He was like a cool person, like
Yeah.
a part of that cool New York scene,
Okay,
like
cool.
where
Yes. Yeah.
they're all like, he's like a hype beast type
Sure.
of person.
We go to clubs and stuff
Go to
and knew where
clubs.
the cool places to go and all that.
Would
Yeah.
just sit and be quiet
Sure.
at clubs. You're not supposed to talk. Don't talk. No. Elle,
Right.
stop talking.
Right. This place is opening up. We got to check this
Mhm.
out.
Gotta
Sure.
check this out.
Right. I know the guy who works
Mhm.
here. Yeah.
Yeah,
A
exactly.
promoter. Sure.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like, and he would like sometimes hang out with like really cool like crews and everything.
Sure.
But and when I would go out with him, I'd be like silly and funny and
Right.
like whatever, and he would literally be like, "Shh, don't do that in public." He would tell me like not to do like funny voices or faces,
Right,
or
right.
like really smile. He's like,
He'd be
he's
like,
like, please.
Just please be cold and like seem like out of reach.
Yeah.
So the people who are like trying to get into our section are like, wow, that's where I want to be.
Exactly.
Yeah. Can you just be like an idea? I would love for you to be like a little more of a concept.
Yeah. You're kind of being too real right now. We need more meta.
Yeah. I would love to just kind of like strip a little bit of the joy and just like make you like more ethereal, you know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. That's exactly. And
yes.
I've like come into contact with these people, and I thought like, you know, over time, obviously, eventually, I'm like, this is just not gonna work, because this is like kind of a huge part of my personality.
Like existing and like joking around and like talking. Yeah.
And just being like a normal human. So I've
not like a quiet presence.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think it's turned all the right people away from me, for sure.
Yeah.
But
that also helps that you have a thing that you do and that puts you in like a community or space where it's encouraged and you can be yourself in that way.
Yeah.
And that you don't have to, like, because if you didn't have comedy, because I used to think that when like I would go do sets and like you do like bar shows or whatever,
right.
And I would like walk like to the back room and past the people who were just kind of like sitting at the bar, and they're like, you know, wearing like a button down like
a cool
striped
outfit,
shirt or
right?
whatever. Yeah, they're just like they changed into that outfit after work or whatever to try to, you know, like I don't know, always wear a suit kind of thing. And then they're there and they're like faking conversation. I was just like, man, I would just want to fucking die if I had to do this. Do you know what I mean? Like it was moments like that, like walking past that and like overhearing that, where I'd feel very grateful to have comedy for all of its like bad shit and toxicity and stuff. Like there is an element where I was like, man, that does give you like a purpose and an environment and some like-minded people that like really lets you like exist as yourself in a way that like it would be so painful to have to like shoehorn some constant first date version of yourself in these like environments that I would be so unhappy.
Or you just
I'd be so unhappy.
I was so unhappy. That was the whole thing. And like, or just like you hope you find someone kind of quirky, so like you guys can do everything together. They're not even as silly as you.
Were you doing comedy at that time?
When I met him, I wasn't.
Right.
I was for a while. I've always known that I wanted to be a comedian, like even when I was little.
Sure.
But I was there was so much like shame and like
that's
hate
how I felt too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I wanted that when I was a kid also, and I was also ashamed and like didn't.
Yeah, I'm like, why do you think you can do this?
Like, right.
Why? That's so embarrassing.
Yeah. I also, this is like what we were talking about of other people's perception. I like didn't tell other people that I wanted to do comedy for the longest time, like when I was a kid, because I thought that would give them a chance to say you can't do it, and I wouldn't have felt secure enough to be like, yes, I can. Do you know what I mean? Like, would have been like, oh, I guess you're right, and so I like kind of protected that, and that is one aspect of my personality I would love to also not have, is like the sort of like sensitivity or insecurity. Would love to be like a little less. Like if somebody says a negative thing, or I overhear something.
Fuck yourself.
Yeah, I wish it wouldn't sort of like. I do still have a habit of like circling it, even if I know it's like nonsense or bullshit.
Right.
There is still a part of me that like circles it in a way that I wish.
I know.
It could like wash off much easier, you know.
For sure. I know. I think I'm the same way. Like, other people's opinions that absolutely do not matter, like have kept me away from doing something that I was meant to do, like my whole life. Like, and that's crazy.
For sure.
Like, I didn't start comedy until I was 26, but the whole time I was drinking a ton, and I was drinking like every day.
So that's one step towards doing comedy. Yeah.
Yeah.
You had one thing down.
That's a prerequisite.
Yeah.
But like I was just really sad, and I was like I was trying to like, you know, just be that person that just works a day job and is happy and is happy drinking every day, because you know those are the happiest people.
The happiest people need to drink every day after work. 100%. Those are the happiest people that are like, I'm so happy to be drinking Monday through Friday after work. Yeah. And then more on the weekends.
Way more on the weekends, all day. And I was like, I don't know, I just love parties and going out later. And she's like,
Yeah.
avoiding all of my
Sure, of course. Yeah.
problems.
Totally.
I love it.
Totally.
But yeah, and I can't even. It was, I felt like the first time I did comedy, it was like more than a drug. It was so like a relief.
Sure.
Finally, this is what we were supposed to do all along. Like,
yeah, no, but it takes a long time to sort of like build up that kind of security to do it and be like, and I do think it's way easier to say like, this is what I'm doing rather than like, this is what I want to do.
Exactly.
And I think it's like, once you get to that place and you're like, I'm doing this thing, then everyone just kind of like, nobody gives a shit. Nobody gives a fuck. And so for anybody afraid to pursue a thing, it's like, nobody cares. Not a single soul. No. So it's like, you might as well do the thing.
Yeah.
But I think it's much easier than to just be like, I'm doing this present tense rather than like keeping it. Yeah. Because it's like nobody else is going to give you that approval, you know?
For sure. I don't know. I put it off for so long, but like, when did you start comedy?
I was in college. I went to Northwestern in Chicago, and so I would go into Chicago and do stand up, which I liked because I didn't have family so I didn't want anybody I knew.
Yeah.
I wanted to go and just be bad in peace, like in anonymity, and that was fun to me and let me gain the confidence to do it. And so I don't know, maybe I was like 20 or so, but I wouldn't do it consistently then. It wasn't until I graduated college. I was maybe like 22.
Right.
Came back to New York and then started doing mics every night.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah.
So
I mean, I can't even
10 years ago, yeah.
That's awesome. I can't even imagine, like, people who say they started in high school. I'm like, that is so cool. And
I know, yeah.
I don't know how. I wish I could have.
Sure, yeah.
But
of course.
There was just no way.
No, I was not. I was so self-conscious. Like, another aspect that I do wish I was that I wish I wasn't, you know, because you see also those are the people who are so fun on stage,
right?
Like people who are these like natural performers,
right?
Who it's so not my personality, and I'm so envious of it. Also,
right. To just be yourself 100%.
To be yourself and also be able to be silly, which I think is like not in vogue now. I think it's more like there's still a lot of like ironic distance or whatever, but there is something cool about like, and I've said this, but like somebody like Jim Carrey, like you ever see him like do comedy? Like there is something like very vulnerable about being willing to like get on your knees and like be a chihuahua on stage. God, you know what I mean? Yeah, like there's something so, it's like, wow, you're so like free in a way that I am so like paralyzed with like self-consciousness that I could never do that.
I know.
But then also, it's not a coincidence that like those guys end up being like the best actors also, because they're able to like just be so unguarded and vulnerable, and sort of like they're just not constricted
at all
in that way that I think I feel some kind of like emotional straitjacket a little bit of the time that I wish I could break free of a little bit. That's easier in writing than it is in like performance, you know?
Even when you're killing and you're like doing really well and people are like dying laughing and you still feel like you can't let go a little bit.
I mean, not to that kind of extent, because it's like within these like parameters, you know?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
But yes, if it's going well and I'm X amount, like I had at least 2 drinks, then you could be this like free level, you know? But still not to that level that some people
can go to.
And even people who it's not to the talent level of Jim Carrey, there is still this like uninhibited thing that seems like seems like cool. And I do think that probably extends also into like, not as concerned with with the perception of others, and not as preoccupied with that, because it's like this kind of confidence in being and existing that is like seems like super admirable, and I don't quite know how to like access that. It just feels like to some extent like a genetic, and maybe some of it can be learned, but I don't know. Yeah,
some chemical imbalance in the perfect way. And
it's like it's like the perfect imbalance.
Yeah.
Whereas what we have is probably the imperfect imbalance.
Yeah, a little bit. But those people, I mean, it's like again, like what we were saying, where even though they have this great trait of like maybe being super vulnerable, they're also the ones who will fuck up big time, but like not really care. I feel like because they aren't like they don't have that anxiety to like.
You mean like
be like, wow, I just
if something didn't work or something, or nobody laughs at them being a chihuahua?
Well, not even about comedy. Maybe just about like friendships. Like, oh, I told
you.
Oh,
sure.
I would go to your funeral and oops, didn't. Who cares?
Right.
It's all good.
Right.
Man.
Right. There's a sort of like flagrant disregard.
Yeah.
That comes with being super like flippant and transactional or carefree. Or just riding the wave of what you felt like doing in the moment.
In that moment, totally.
That is not, that probably also the flip side, yes, it lends itself to like not really considering others.
Exactly.
And maybe a lack of empathy, or maybe a lack of like, because you're not just thinking about the other perspectives, and really like that oscillating fan of like other people's POV, and you're more just like beeline of like emotion. Like there's just zero filter, so it's just like thought execution, you know, with zero sort of like contemplating before you do it, you know.
Exactly. For me, there has been moments before I've gotten on stage where I just, for whatever reason, like the stars freaking align, and I just feel my peak silliness. And those times I have done so well. Same like obviously same material, but it's like
no, it's all
every time,
it's all a mindset.
And it's just like how I say it and how and they can feel it. Like
totally. Do you have ways that you get into that headspace?
I haven't like made it into a formula yet. I don't really know how. I think it's like an overall like hanging out with the right people, not hanging out with people who are gonna like put me down or anything like that, which is so sensitive and so lame.
It's all. I mean, I have the weird thing. Like for me, it's just like these little things I've found. One big one is like if I'm, and I will almost always do this. Will talk to somebody like as I'm being introduced, and it doesn't even need to be a friend. It can be like just an acquaintance, or even just like somebody in the like audience. I might just like say something like if I'm just standing in the back, but there's something about like bullshitting and being in some kind of conversational mindset that I've found like helps me in a way that I'm not just like getting on stage and like pressing play. Do you know what I mean?
Interesting.
Like in a way that like I found that sort of like helps me be like a little more conversational and not just like getting up and feeling like, okay, now I am performing. You know what I mean? The book report begins. You know what I mean? And so it's really like avoiding that. I don't know. And it's obviously like entirely just like psychological of just feeling like I have to do it. So then I will always do it. But I did find that sort of like helps, and it like extends over, and then I will sort of like go up there with a more natural and a little more like upbeat energy, and like it's an extension of
you're continuing
this conversation.
Right. That's really interesting.
In a way that like, also because it's like, I mean, you know, from comedy, it's like very often it's like we've talked to so few people during the day. You know what I mean? Where it's like. It's like crazy where it's like sometimes there are times I just had to address that. I've been like, I've talked to maybe 2 people all day. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm still kind of like acclimating.
Total.
Right. So it's just like it does feel like whiplash sometimes. And so I think anything that sort of like helps bridge that transition, you know?
Totally. I think that's a really good point, especially just like talking a little bit before you're set, but before just being like, I'm Italian.
Right.
Like, right. Starts a conversation like that.
Right. You're just like being like insane. Yeah. It's just like an insane person. And so it's just like, if we're just like talking about some movie or whatever and just they've introduced it, it's like there is something like, it just feels natural or helps bring a certain like energy that feels like comfortable rather than like repeating the first word of your set like over like, okay. Yeah. And then just getting into it, you know?
I think also for me, like I this is so stupid, but I've always wanted to just be like that person that can like have a drink and do comedy, and it's no big deal, and like it's fun, and because it is fun. It's like even just like one drink, it's no big deal.
Being drunk is the best thing.
It's awesome, and
yes,
I just
really
can't. Even if I have one sip, I
really?
feel like I can notice a difference.
Really?
Because it's almost like I don't even know if it's like anxiety, but like my want to perform the best I can gets a little hazy after I take a drink, and it's not loosening me up in the way where I'm like relaxed. I'm like I almost don't care in the worst way. I'm like I don't even care if you guys laugh. I don't care.
Are you guys married? I don't give a fuck.
It's like I don't even care to talk to you right now. Like I just want to go drink with my friends.
Right.
Like,
for me, that's funny. For me, it loosens me up in a way that I can talk to them because I don't care to talk to them if sober. I'd be like, I really don't care how long anybody's been married under any circumstance. So it's like there is some loosening. Under any circumstance. There's like no world I would care. There's
no world where I would give
I can't think of a context where I would like find that to be interesting information. Even if it was like people I knew really well, I just like can't imagine. Yeah. But I'd be like, oh, that's interesting. Like it was just whoa. Whoa.
You got married 6 years ago? Whoa.
Whoa. Holy shit. You know that?
That's so funny.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's good. It's good to have like a limit of like, you know, I'm not a great comedian on like 5 beers because that would be really bad. Sure.
But
kind of cool.
And bad. Well, I mean it's bad once you discover that because then there's no going back.
There's no.
You know, you're just like, well, this is what I need. You know.
Yeah, I've never like taken something and been like, wow, this is my secret sauce to my.
No, I've had the opposite on edibles where I totally like freak out.
How do people
I can't do them.
Perform?
I have no idea. I literally the first time I took them was at the Stand, and I'd already performed, but somebody gave one to me and I took too much and I ran home and I wrote a 1,000-word email to myself criticizing every wrong decision I'd ever made, and the subject was never forget.
Dude, never forget.
Yeah, I was like yelling
You're
at myself. I was like, you didn't spend enough time with your roommates a few years ago. You know what I mean? Just like shitting on myself for like random shit.
That's so funny.
It was just like, you failed, you know? Yeah. And at some point, I have the email somewhere. I like tried to read it on stage once and it was like too painful and I was like, I can't do this. But it was like so self-critical and so like dark. But at one point I was like, there was like a YouTube video playing in another tab, you know, it'll play the related videos. And I was like too high to realize I could just X out of the video. So I was free writing and I was just like, shut up, Chris Rock. Shut up, Chris Rock video. I was just like yelling.
Yelling at Chris Rock.
Yeah, I was just like, it is free writing as I'm like mad that I was like a bad camp counselor or whatever.
So specific, you know.
Yes.
So, like,
I was really getting in the granular like self-criticisms, you know. But no, I had one maybe like a year or two ago, and I like didn't realize how it was like a weed sorbet, and I didn't realize how much it would impact me, and I like got on stage and I like addressed it up top. I was like, so I did have an edible. And I like apologized to them, and I was like, so that might be why it's a little weird. And then I like did my set, and they were just kind of like, okay. And I got off and I like apologized. Like I was like, yeah, you were fine. You didn't have to say that. And I was like, I did. They would have known. God. I was just like out of my mind.
Dude,
I just kept apologizing to everybody.
So
I'm so sorry.
It's gonna get pretty weird.
Yeah, they're just like, they're just like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, your fly was down. That was about it.
Your shirt's on backwards.
Yeah,
backwards.
But all the jokes were fine. Yeah.
But hey, this was so much fun.
We did it.
We did it.
Wow.
Thanks for coming on the pod. This is
hell yeah.
You're hilarious. Where can people find you once again?
I
don't know if we did that, but
no, I don't think we. No, at Dan J Perlman, on the stuff.
And do you have any like shows coming up or anything like that?
Nothing.
He never gets booked. No.
Just just follow on all the things.
On all the things. Dan's hilarious. You got to follow him, dude. All right. Thank you so much for coming on the pod. This has been one of my favorite yet. Okay, bye.